Hello, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube world. This is Jeremiah with The Life Chosen. Today I want to talk to you about the easy side and the challenging side of the healing process that I went through. When I look at how I healed my body of a lot of different autoimmune issues, it's really very, very simple, the mechanics of what happened. It's so simple, I think that's why so many of us miss it. That compounded with a few other factors, that there's a lot of ego involved in helping people. So people aren't always given, I don't think, full disclosure. They're given partial disclosure because that keeps you hooked in spending more money. When I look at what was challenging about the healing process, it was the emotions. There were times when I had old things from my childhood that had to be felt. And I'll talk a little bit about why they had to be felt. And then there was always a point of making a decision. And what I see happening in the spiritual community now is, as in the non-religious, the non-church community, I see it happening in the religious community just like it happened in my 40 years of Christianity. And it's this desire that people have to want to be pulled out so far out of their human body that they have some clarity, that they can come back in and hopefully make a decision. And I've done that, and it worked for me. I've done not as many psychedelics as some people have. But here's the thing. The human spirit is a very, very powerful thing. And to me, it's like the greatest AI on earth. I mean, to me, AI is patterned after the human mind. If you go on YouTube, there are endless amounts of videos. And if you select one and you keep selecting a few of those videos that are like that, you're going to be inundated with more information. And it's the same with human emotions. The more you feel an emotion, the more you put your focus on, your conscious focus on an emotion, and you support that with continually thinking about it, your inbox, your YouTube page is going to be full of that and things like it. And when it comes to prayer, when it comes to manifestation, that is literally why we are here. We are supposed to have prayers answered. We are supposed to manifest everything we see around us. And for some of you, that may be way far out there, but the issue isn't that we don't manifest or have prayers answered. It's we don't realize that we're praying every single day. We don't realize we're manifesting every single minute of every day. Every thought we have feeds into the loop of what we experience. And so when it comes to healing is a very basic, it's like training a horse, it's like training a dog. You always go back to the basics. If you don't have the basics down, then whatever you're creating, whatever you're manifesting, it's going to fall apart at some point. And I have manifested some of the coolest things in my life. I manifested my college education being paid for. Literally, it was out of the blue. I've manifested vehicles. I've manifested homes to live in. I've manifested, when I was 18, from a movie, I manifested an entire stint in Germany. I've manifested so much. I've also manifested a lot of heartache. I've also manifested some really fucked up shit in my life, and I didn't understand why it was happening. And it's really very simple. The reason our lives go the way they go, it's not happenstance. It's not coincidence. And the thing is just like when I talked about the YouTube videos, whatever you select is what you're going to see in your reality in some form or another. And we all have, our subconscious has so many different things in it to present. Unless our conscious mind selects what it is we're wanting, our subconscious mind is continually pumping out what's familiar. And so a large part of healing was just becoming familiar with what was already there, and then emotionally, and then learning something different. And in the process of that, the body adapts and changes to meet that need and that requirement of our focus. It's really that simple. It's really that simple to manifest anything. The issue comes in with that YouTube channel that we have that has tons of other videos. And if we lack self-discipline, if we lack an understanding of what's going on, if we don't have faith in who we are and what's going on in our reality, then whenever those intrusive thoughts, one of those many, many thoughts that are stuck in that YouTube land of our subconscious mind, they're going to be thrown up. Like if you say you continually watch cooking on YouTube and you get up and you put effort into that and you become a better cook, you're still going to have other videos that show up, maybe random car videos, random beauty trends, things like that, like intrusive thoughts. There's going to be these other thoughts that come through. And when you become disciplined, you learn what to focus on and what not to focus on. You learn when your body really needs rest and when it needs you to keep pushing a little bit. And then you learn, okay, I pushed a little bit and I was supposed to push a little bit, but I pushed a little bit too far now, and now I need to back off. You learn how to literally work with your body. And these are all things that I was kind of promised in church. I was promised in Christianity. But the issue was it was all external. And I'll do another video on that. I've already done videos on that, on my experience with accepting, being initiated into Christianity and how that went down. And I'll probably do it again. But healing in and of itself is a very, very simple process. And I'm going to be really honest right now. I get really fucking annoyed when people keep making it difficult. They keep changing the game when if you just go back to the fucking basics, you can help a lot more people. And you know, I've not done the full range of psychedelics. I have done mushrooms and I have used weed. And those are great, great tools. But if you use them and you still don't realize that you're the one that's in control of your reality, you're the one that says what can happen in your reality and what can't happen in your reality, you're going to keep looking to get out of your body to understand this thing even more. At some point, you just kind of have to trust the process. And I see so many people who are just trying to reinvent the wheel. And there's really, put your spin, put your flavor on it. I know I certainly did in what I created to help people navigate emotions. But there comes a point when you just have to accept that reality is the way it is. And there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of play in it. But, you know, the issue that I've seen and that I'm fully aware that anybody is capable of indulging in it is, you know, this idea that we're responsible, or if I take on responsibility of helping someone else, then I'm going to make a lot of money in the process and I'm going to build myself up. And quite honestly, that's what I saw growing up in church. So seeing it in the spiritual community that's supposed to be giving people back their free will, that's supposed to be explaining a human's free will to them, and they keep getting roped into new things. I have nothing against evolution and evolving as humans. What I have an issue with is when we're trying to evolve people that don't have the basics figured out. And when I look around the spiritual community and I see people still trying to figure it out, it's like, when are you going to just recognize that honestly, that you really shouldn't even be teaching until you figure some shit out. Like, I think we're at a time in history when people really need to know who they are. They need to understand that what you think and believe about your reality is going to create that for you. And if enough people are believing the same thing and thinking the same thing, you're going to create the same thing with them. It's called co-creation. And for those of you who believe in the Bible and believe that you're made in God's image and that the kingdom is within you and that you are a joint heir with Christ and you're taught all of these things, then you should be fucking doing it. And I, as a Christian, that lived most of my life, I've lived it as a Christian, did not experience that because I was missing out on some of the basics. I grew up in a world where my emotions weren't controlled. I knew what I was feeling on the inside. And a lot of times it was the same thing over and over again. And I learned not to share those feelings because when I did, it was so illuminating to the bullshit that I was surrounded by. It freaked people out, and I would get in trouble for expressing my emotions. So I learned to keep my emotions hidden, and it did not allow me to necessarily grow and experience new emotions. So when I was an adult, and there's a whole story behind this. My whole life wasn't as bad as the years from 2005 to 2020. There were bits of my life that were actually, and when I say this, it's nothing against my wife and kids, but there was a time, even with my older two kids, that I was much more free. In 2005, I made a very pivotal decision to lock my focus, lock my YouTube channel on bullshit. And my life went to hell, honestly, for the next 15 years. And it's all because I had a limited range of emotion. And with that limited range of emotion, I limited my expression in life and reality to this defeated human being. And that's all I was going to experience until I learned to let that go, until I learned how to work through that. And as somebody who has dug deep, as somebody who's gone back into those moments where I was basically terrorized. I mean, it was, my molestation was not just a sexual thing. It was very much a power trip, which I believe it's always related to power. But it was very much torture, physical torture. And I can go back and talk about that because I'm not limited. Number one, I've felt what needed to be felt, and I've chosen from there how to feel about the experience I had with being molested. But in that, I think about times in my life when I was depressed, and I think about anxiety. And to me, depression was like the same emotional feelings over and over again. You're stuck on a loop. But everything in life, to me, with depression, kind of felt slower. And then with anxiety, it was like, there was all of this excitement and there was all of this emotional confusion. So one, to me, seemed very fast-paced with a lot of emotion, and that was anxiety for me. Excuse the chopper going over. And depression for me was a mix of the same emotions, but everything seemed to be slowed down. Either one of those now, to me, are markers, are road signs, road maps for where I want to go. And I don't experience depression and I don't experience anxiety the same as I did before. I still can experience them to a degree, probably more so anxiety really than depression. But we repeat those cycles because they're in our YouTube world. They're in our subconscious. And until we learn to process those triggers that lock our conscious mind on them again, because that's what happens. The subconscious gets triggered, the conscious mind is made aware, and you keep focusing on that same thing keeps happening, and that's why it keeps happening. And we're not taught this shit, because if everybody knew this, if everyone was taught this in like preschool and kindergarten, the world would be a completely different place. Which brings me to my last and final point. I was taught in Christianity to be very careful about what I watched. I was taught really mind control. And it's not necessarily in a completely bad way. In some instances, it was something that didn't necessarily produce positive results for me, but not in every instance. It taught me how the mind works. It taught me a lot of, Christianity really taught me a lot of things. The foundation for everything in Christianity was so messed up compared to what I've experienced and what allowed me to heal. That's not to say that people who are still involved in it can't experience the same things that I've experienced. You can, but there are a few things that I was taught in Christianity. They're just absolutely false. And it's meant to keep people tied up in this loop. And I just can't sit by and watch that bullshit anymore. I can't watch it from the Christian mindset. I can't watch it from the spiritual mindset. At the end of the day, I think we're all just wanting to live a really good life, to take care of ourselves, to take care of our families, to take care of our pets, to take care of our little world, and everything to be really good. And it's all of these other ideas that have been put in our YouTube world, our subconscious, that compete. And the cool thing about working through emotions and learning how to make really solid decisions is once you deal with something, I heard this when I was healing, that you're going to keep dealing with the same thing over and over again. You'll keep dealing with the same traumas over and over again. Yes, to a degree. In other words, I don't deal with the fact that I was molested or really anything surrounding those really, really intense things anymore. There might be things that come to mind, things that I learn about that situation. And there might be a new nuance that I become aware of that I need to think about or just kind of process and let go of and choose something different. But at the end of the day, do I revisit it? Yes. But the caveat is I don't feel it in the same way anymore that I used to feel it. And the new things, like if there's a new feeling or emotion that I'm made aware of about that circumstance, it's not nearly as earth-shattering as it once was. And when it comes to the person that did it to me, I literally have no animosity towards that person. It's just, when you understand how the mind works, when you understand how the body responds, when you understand the fucking shit show that we are incorporated, literally and figuratively, incorporated into in this society, you realize that there's an infinite number of ways that each of us can handle and conduct our lives. And to me, the greatest hope in that is that we have a conscious mind. And once the conscious mind becomes aware of the shit show that's actually happening, we can learn how to navigate it much more easily. And so I'm going to end this video here, and I'm going to probably talk about a few of the things that I've discussed in this video. I'm going to talk about in a later video. But the healing process, folks, is very, very easy. If you've been with someone or in a community for several years and you still haven't figured it out, know this. It's very, very fucking simple. You have to, at some point, put your big boy panties on, underwear on, and you have to fucking be able to deal with emotions. And it's uncomfortable. And I'll be really honest with you. There were times that I literally felt like I was losing my mind. And that's because I was losing my conscious mind and my conscious awareness of the amount of and the different types of emotions I can feel. And I grew up in a world where emotions made you gay. It made you less than. And man, I tell you what, people who have a limited range of emotions generally live in a lot of fear. They live in fear of change. They live in fear of their world disrupting and finding out things aren't what they seem. And I've been there. I've been there. But what is more, I'm not scared now at this point anyway, but what would be more scary for me at this point is to not know what I know now. Because not only have I been able to create drastic change in my life, that's created drastic change in my kids' lives. Just secondarily, like no, if I had no interaction with them watching me go through what I went through, it's changed their lives and it's shown them what they can do. On top of that, my ability to be able to hear my kids tell me things that hurt them that I've done. Maybe it was something where I didn't see them. Maybe it was like a form of neglect, or maybe it was something where I said something to them and I hurt them. I remember as a kid being able to trying to talk to my parents about those things and them just flipping the fuck out and turning it back on me because they did not have the emotional warehouse to be able to handle anything other than what they've known their whole lives. And I am not in that position anymore. So when my kids come to me, do some things hurt? Absolutely. I've never wanted to do anything but bless my kids and help them to have a beautiful life. But I'm human. And my life as a child was very, very challenging. And putting all of that into proper perspective took me some time. And it took a lot of work and it took a lot of effort, but it was worth it. It didn't make me gay. It didn't make me less than. If anything, I feel more masculine than I've ever felt, and I feel more powerful than I've ever felt. And I'm blessed because my kids can come to me. They can say, "Hey, Dad, this really hurt. I really feel like you fucked up here." And I can sit there and listen to that, and I can say, "Yeah, you know what? You're 100% right. I did. And here's how that happened." Not as an excuse, but I give them the insight as to why things went that way, what my thought process was, what my emotional state was. Not to excuse anything, but just to say, look, this is the process I went through. And the important reason why kids need to be able to hear that shit is because my kids, whether I like it or not, some of the dysfunction, a lot of the dysfunction that I grew up in, I brought into their lives. We all do it. But when you remove the judgment, when you remove the guilt and shame, and boy, was I taught guilt and shame. My initiation into Christianity was nothing but guilt and shame. And I lived in that for 40-something years until I let it go. We all can create a life. I don't give a shit what the economy's doing. I don't care what's going on in the world. We have power that we're not supposed to know about. We have power that the powers that be would rather us not have a fucking clue about. And so many people are waking up to it. And what's frustrating for me is seeing people just go to these lengths, go to all of these events, go to all of these gurus, and you're still dealing with the same shit. It's just a different day because you think that you need someone else to show you how to live your life. You know that saying, I wish there was like a manual for life. I wish there was a rule book for life. There is. There is. It's you. It's me. If you if you want to see the world a better place, what does that look like? How do you do that in your own little sphere? How do you create that world? Life has its challenges, yes. And if you come from a very, very rough background, if you come from an emotionally, physically, sexually abusive background, I could not even fathom what my life could be. I dreamed about it when I was a kid, but I didn't really, until this point in my life, know that it was going to happen. And I just want to share this because I know so many people, I see so many people that hurt. I see so many people living the same loop over and over again, and they really don't have any idea why. And it's really simple. We are highly, highly, highly programmable humans. And the way that the way that we're programmed is an event that has an emotional response. And if the powers that be, if the government, if any entity wants to inflict a trauma on a child, and that child does not have a family that's emotionally aware, that can help them work through that, that can spot the change, that can help that child open up, then that child will be locked in. Now imagine you're a government. Imagine you are an entity that inflicts trauma on society at large. And you have millions of children being taught these things and being programmed these things and being programmed to live in war, to live in poverty, to live in all of these states. You could control everything unless people start to wake up, unless people figure out what's going on, and unless people learn to heal their emotions. I mean, I used to think money was the most valuable thing, and now I realize emotions are the most valuable thing. That's why we have marketing. That's why marketing is such a big thing. That's why social media is such a big thing, because you keep people locked in on the same loop over and over again. And then you fill up their subconscious with all this other peripheral programming that's going on. I'm not opposed to being on social media. I am on social media some, but it's slowed down quite a bit. I'm going to cut this video here because it's gone on long enough and I can keep talking about this stuff because I love talking about it. I love talking about the fact that we are not stuck. We are not stuck in all of those emotions that we felt limited to as children, and then as young adults, and then as parents. There's nothing worse than being a parent and knowing you have children that look up to you and idolize you and worship you, and you feel so fucked up in the head, and you don't understand how life works, and you don't know how to navigate it. I've been there, and I've been on the flip side. And I know this, you don't have to keep going to events. You don't have to keep, if you've spent 2 years or let's say 3 years with a guru and you still haven't broken through, I think there's a catch-22 with that. People need time to heal, but they also need time that if you're not the person that's helping them, if that person is staying attached to you because, excuse me as I take a sip of coffee, because they haven't learned the secret of their life, and that secret is that you're the one that's fucking creating it. And I don't know what to tell you, but you're creating some bullshit when you do that. I'm gonna end this here because I've said a lot of shit. I hope this touches someone. I hope this reaches someone who's struggling and who maybe is feeling like there's no hope, feeling like you're going to be stuck always, feeling like the depression is so much bigger than anything you're going through, the anxiety is so much bigger than anything you're going through, the trauma is so much bigger than anything you're going through. I hope this helps you. And with that, I say have a good day.